Okay, so welcome everybody to another episode of Beyond the Title Conversation with ServiceNow's Elite. Now, today I've got a very, very special guest. His name is Richard Andrews. Now, he is the Managing Director of DevoTeam UK and Ireland, which is a digital tech consulting firm focusing on cloud, platforms, AI, data, and cybersecurity. Now, DevoTeam is also an elite partner of ServiceNow. So, Richard, I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Farah. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, yes, I mean, look, when I first spoke to you, I was really impressed because you're so prominent on the LinkedIn space, and I always see you popping up with your posts and everything. So I'm sure a lot of people do have seen you, around on LinkedIn, and they may know you personally. But for anybody else that doesn't know, has never met you or doesn't know your journey, would you mind just kind of sharing with us some details about how you first got introduced to ServiceNow and how you've got into the position that you are in today in such a successful role?
Thank you. Yeah, well, happy to do so. So it's been a little bit of a non-traditional career path and journey for me. I started off in retail banking in the UK, working in Barclays, out in the branches. Then, just by virtue of doing that, I was involved in a lot of the restructuring that was going on within the bank. And then I went into digital the first time round this is showing my age now, between 99 and 2001, which was when, we were on the web. If you announced that you were going to be doing a website with Razorfish, your stock price went up 20-30%. You hadn't even done anything. But then I moved into sort of management consulting thereafter. And I was doing a lot of stuff around creating high-performing teams, restructuring firms, transforming processes, new target operating models, and so on. But there was a lot of technology that was being used then to support a lot of this transformation. And I think things have changed a little bit now because I think there's a lot of tech-driven transformation, but there was a lot of focus around transform the processes, transform the operating model, and the technology is just going to enable some of that stuff. So it was probably particularly when I started getting involved in the areas of shared services and business process outsourcing, that the use of ServiceNow is really something that kind of came into the fore for me. So we're talking quite a few years ago on that. Again, it wasn't my main focus to be implementing ServiceNow, but it was such a robust, really strong platform that could really help you manage the workflows of different tickets across geographies, and give people really good reporting and visibility on, hey, this is what we're doing to support your business. So it was during that period that I really got into it. And then it's been a sort of ever-present platform, really, in lots of the transformations that I've done in a number of different consulting firms, but particularly for me, supporting the shared services and BPO journey. But yeah, with its focus initially, I think, in the IT space, which of course is with ITSM, which is where ServiceNow started.
Wow, that's incredible. That's fantastic. And obviously, now you're sort of managing director of DevoTeam as well. So, which is fantastic. Yeah. I think it's really interesting because I think to get to that position where you are, there's a certain mindset, there's a certain mindset that people have where they kind of achieve and get to that position. What would you say is like your mindset, and how did you develop it?
I think I think there's probably some things that I was born with, which was a sort of a natural sort of problem solving kind of mindset, always looking at ways in which, how can I do something better? I think that's been a common theme in my career, when I've started new roles, where I've been promoted into kind of different roles and so on. It's a case of, well, look, it's great that we've done things in the way that we've done them for this amount of time. But I want to learn what's working really, really well. And let's not, if it's working, there's no need to tamper with it and fix it. But are there some new things that we could be trialing to see if it's going to drive better performance? And it's not better performance for the sake of it. Ultimately, it's around creating a high performing team. And we want to do that using the right tools and the right processes and the right kind of engagement model, because we're there to actually deliver better quality engagements, better quality services and products to the end customers. So I think that desire to wanting to problem solve, wanting to see how we can do things better, faster, cheaper, and make more of an impact. That's been a common theme of who I am and a common theme of my career. And I think also just wanting to really challenge myself and learn as well. And I think when it comes to working within the ServiceNow ecosystem, I think everybody who works in the ServiceNow ecosystem wants to learn, wants to grow, because we've got a platform which is doing a huge amount of different things than it was when it first started. It's no longer ITSM only. So I think by virtue of working in this ecosystem, we all share a certain number of qualities, which is around let's challenge the status quo, let's see how we can make things better, let's think about the customers that we're really trying to serve, and what do we need to do in order to create a high performing team to do that. So that's been how I've kind of got to this position. But I think a lot of it was around personally challenging myself. If I haven't done something before, or if I don't really know certain technology, or if I haven't worked with a certain team or in a certain geography, because I've worked a little bit around most of Europe. I've supported customers globally. I've done work in the US all the way down to South Africa, and across over into sort of, Asia as well. So I think wanting to challenge myself to work in different ways, work in different geographies with different clients, but there've been common themes around how can we actually help customers to do things better. And I think that plays really well to anybody who wants to be successful in the ServiceNow ecosystem.
Wow. I love that. I really love that philosophy. It's like, how can we do things better? I think
Yeah,
because if you have that thinking, that mindset, you're always going to be, it's like the quality level, like the excellence that you want to project. It's going to be so much more because you're always looking, and yeah, I really love that. And I love the fact that, it's the global side of it as well. It's not, so it's just brilliant. So I think that's really, really good. And I think a lot of people probably don't think that way. They probably think, oh, well, if it's been done a certain way, maybe we should stick with it, So I
yeah,
just love that, how you've kind of like challenged that norm, which is like amazing.
yeah,
So, and, like
yeah,
you say, rightly say, it's all about the customers at the end of the day. It's making sure that you're doing things better for them, So
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's easy to maintain the status quo. And I think, that's great if something's working really well. But there's so many challenges for different firms out there. There's so many challenges in being seen, in making sure that you are getting your share of wallet, and that you're challenging that status quo. So you've got to be doing that every day. It's got to be part of your DNA. And it's certainly something which, as I said, anybody working in this ecosystem really needs to have that kind of mindset, because, ITSM is where ServiceNow started. But actually, when I think about, DevoTeam, and the work that we've been doing so far this year, the vast majority of the work that we do isn't in ITSM. In fact, between CSM's our probably biggest area. So I think so far this year, about 75% of the work that we've been doing has been on CSM. And I think about 15% has actually been in HR, so in the HR service delivery. So yeah, 90% of what we're doing isn't in ITSM today. And that just shows the power of the platform, how it's evolving, but also how we as a business and our consultants need to evolve and broaden our skills and look at ways that the power of the Now platform as a whole, and how the new modules that are coming into place and are becoming increasingly prevalent and can be brought into work for our customers.
No, definitely, definitely. And I suppose, it's, it's being able to adapt to that change. Like you said, ITSM is the
Yeah,
foundation. And with all these new modules coming out, and there's more and more modules coming out all the time. So, you know, and like, sometimes the industry, can be quite challenging. And I guess you have to have that resilience about yourself. Like, how do you personally build that resilience, particularly when the times are tough and
yeah.
Yeah, what's your kind of
Yeah, I
thoughts?
mean, it's a really good question, and I'd love to share like, one little wonderful golden nugget or magic wand that sort of makes it work. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a collection of things. I think in recent years we've had a global pandemic, we've had elements of recession, we've got war, we've had political instability in so many parts of the world. These last sort of 3.5, 4 years have been tough on everybody. I think resilience is something that some people are better at than others. What I would say is there's something that we've been looking at in DevoTeam, which we call being sort of anti-fragile. And what it does is it plays on the resilience piece, which is okay. It's really really tough when we're being knocked back, when we're not winning some work, or when the customer goes, yes, we want to do it. However, the budgets have been put on hold, or the decision's going to be delayed, and all of that can be really quite soul destroying. So I think the anti-fragile piece on it, it builds on the resilience. It's like, okay, what did we learn that worked really well? Is there something that we need to do differently as a result of what's going on in the world? But also accepting the fact that there's certain things we can influence and there's certain things that we can't influence. So influencing and changing and learning from the things that work well and seeing how I can then implement those or engage with the customer in a certain way next time to get a more successful outcome, I think is really, really critical. But it's more than just being tough and picking yourself up and dusting yourself off. I think we've got to learn from what's working and what isn't working and seeing how do we need to pivot to help us be more successful in these difficult times. But I think the big thing is accept the fact, you know what, it is hard, it is tough. And there's nothing wrong with thinking, God, you know what, this has been really painful, or I've had a really difficult quarter or a difficult year so far, because that's also totally natural. And we should just, accept that and take a moment to reflect on the fact that sometimes things are really tough. But you know what? If we pull together as a team, if we think about how we can leverage the great skills and insights that we've got in the teams that we're in all of the firms that are working in the ServiceNow ecosystem. We can actually put something together for a customer, which is really going to help them in very difficult circumstances because we've all been going through it. It's not like one ServiceNow partner has been doing really well and everybody else is having a horrible time. The difficulties we've seen are cutting across all different industries. So we're all in this together, but let's learn from the good stuff that we've got, recognize that it's tough. Sometimes take a moment to just think, God, you know what I want to do? I want to go down the pub and have a couple of drinks with my team and talk about stuff which isn't to do with work, to just decompress from it. But it is tough. Be resilient, see and recognize the fact that it's tough, but then also think about, well, what can we learn from this? Because there are good things happening. How can we learn from those good things and try and multiply them so we have more of those successes, I think. So
Yeah.
no one-off magic wand. I think it's a collection of things and realizing that no individual is there alone. We are part of teams, we're part of an ecosystem, and there's strength in those numbers as well.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And it's really positive as well, it's because it is tough, I think, for everybody at the moment. But it's having that positivity, and I can definitely see that with you as well, Richard. It's like, well,
Thank
okay,
you.
well, we're going to learn something from this, and
Yeah.
it's a case of sticking together and pulling through. So yeah, no,
Exactly.
I
And we all
love
come
that.
out the other side of it stronger. That's the thing. I've made a ton of mistakes and a ton of bad decisions throughout my entire career, but I don't make them too often. I try not to repeat them. So I think the key thing is, learn from it, see what we can do differently, recognize we're in it together. And we address these challenges, but we do come out the other side stronger. And then what we bring to the party, what we bring to our customers, what we contribute to the ecosystem gets better and gets stronger.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And, obviously being in your position right now, so you're a managing director for UK and Ireland, do you have people that kind of, or not mentor, but that you look up to and, or even in the past that have played, some guidance in your career to help you to kind of be where you are today? Like, what's your thoughts on mentorship and looking up to people?
I think it's absolutely critical. I think there's mentoring, and I think there's also coaching as well. So I'm an accredited coach for the International Coaching Federation. It was something I did way back in my career, where I was invested in by Logica Consulting, as it was at the time. It's now CGI. And I spent a year part-time working on developing my coaching skills. So I think there's coaching absolutely critical, because I can go and talk to, I've got a couple of people I can rely on for a bit of coaching. I can go and talk to them about anything. And they will be a great sounding board, and they'll help me get that leap. Because I think the difference between coaching and mentoring is, mentoring, you're going to a real subject matter expert who's going to help you based on their experience, show you a path for you to be successful. With mentoring, your mentor may have no experience in your particular field, be it the kind of service offering, geography you're working in, the type of role, that kind of stuff. But they're there to be a sounding board, and you bounce the stuff backwards and forwards, and they use questioning until you actually discover that the answer for yourself. So you have this thing they call a leap, and it's just like, oh my God, the penny's dropped. I can see, got this clarity now. So I think coaching can be really, really good to have a good, strong coach in your life. And sometimes it actually helps that they're not necessarily in your industry or doing the same role, because then it's a different thing you're trying to address. Mentoring, absolutely. We try and do that within DevoTeam in UK and I have a mentor, which is my boss, who I can talk to about a number of things. There are also other people within the business that I can go to and have conversations with. So there's a community of country MDs that so I have regular kind of sessions with them. So I think it's good to be able to talk about stuff, find out what's really working for them, challenge, so they can challenge me on some of the challenges that I'm experiencing in the UK, and share their insights and ideas around what I can actually try in the UK to address a particular issue, which could be anything from how do we win more business, how do we be seen more visibly in the UK market, because it's a big market where everybody's here. There's a lot of players in the ecosystem in the UK who are far well known than DevoTeam. So how can we become a little bit more visible, even down to how can I be a better line manager to the people that I'm working with. So I think it's really, really important, and it's time that's never wasted. So I think there's a lot of this stuff where people think about coaching, mentoring, this kind of stuff. They think we're really busy, you've got to be on charge, you've got to be earning the fees. That kind of stuff can fall by the wayside very, very quickly as we focus on getting the cash in. But actually, it's never time that's wasted, and it doesn't have to take hours every week. It doesn't have to be every week. It can just be something that people do on an ad hoc basis. So I'd recommend everybody to give that a go, because I think they will see the benefit for it. And the more they do it, I think the more they'll want from it, and actually the more they'll want to give back as well, and maybe mentor other people.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And, it's really interesting because I've not had anyone talk about coaching on the podcast. And you're absolutely right. Having somebody there as a coach, like a bouncing board, but also that, that they can sort of make you an all-rounded sort of better kind of, like you say, leader, and they don't even have to be from the ServiceNow ecosystem. They can be from something else, and just to have that fresh perspective. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I've read, all the big people have coaches, the people that you think that were unexpected, would have someone as a coach. So I think that's really interesting. So no, definitely. And, just thinking about, people that are maybe starting their journey in the ServiceNow kind of ecosystem, in terms of we talked about CSM module, HR, where do you think, if anyone's brand new, and they're right, okay, I need to specialize, in a particular niche or domain or module, what would you recommend?
I think that's a really interesting question. I think the route that most people take is probably the one that I would still sort of recommend, because it's a good starting point. Most people join a ServiceNow consulting firm, and the first thing they do is work on an ITSM project. I think it's such a mature product that you really understand exactly how the Now platform works. So typically people will join, they'll start to be shadowing on a project in the ITSM space. And because it's a mature product with a lot of functionality, it's a really good grounding. And then they'll typically do a sysadmin a certification as a kind of entry point, really. So they understand how their platform works and how to administer it. And then they can go on and think about, do they do a kind of an ITSM foundation certification whilst they're actually working on live projects, because the certification alone doesn't mean you're going to be a good consultant. You need the experience. And indeed, increasingly, you're not going to pass and get your certification unless you've got really good practical experience. So I think it's got to be two things: getting practical experience, shadowing and being a junior member of a project team, learning your craft, learning your skills, understanding the platform, understanding not only the way it works from a technical perspective, but what's it really doing to support the business, and how is it helping that business power its IT function. So I think that's critical. So I'd say start in ITSM, gain practical experience, absolutely do the certifications because they're critical. It gives you permission to play, really, and it shows that you've achieved a certain level of skill, of competency in a particular area. And then think about where you want to go, because some people want to go up and do kind of more advanced certification in that particular module. Other people will want to work in other areas, in other functional areas, because of course we've got HR, of course we've got CSM, of course we've got finance, we've got Ham and Sam, we've got them. There's such a massive, powerful platform, but they've got to think about where do you want to go. The future, ServiceNow is still super powerful in the ITSM space, but I think over time the major growth will be in other modules, and that's certainly what we're seeing as a ServiceNow elite partner. Is people have got ITSM, it's in place, but they're also seeing how else they can use the Now platform, and that's where it's opening lots of really interesting doors. So I think start with the foundations and grow from there. But think about where you want to be in 3 to 5 years' time. Do you want to be a super expert in ITSM, or do you want to be ITSM plus some other areas?
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. Yeah, definitely. And you're right. It's like setting the foundation, really well for yourself, because it will give you a good understanding, So yeah, and I think that's brilliant. And talking about certifications, so you think it's worthwhile people investing their time, energies into doing them then, yeah?
Yes, without question. I think it's absolutely critical. If you want to be taken seriously as a ServiceNow consultant, you've got to have the experience and you've got to have the certifications. And they can take you really, really far. You can, depending on how far you want to go, you could be, going up to be a certified technical architect, one of the most senior certifications you can get. And that also gives you a lot of breadth across the platform as well. So I think it's really, really important. And these are things, you take these with you. You might be working for one ServiceNow, partner today. You might be working with another one tomorrow. You carry those certs with you. And it's really important to do your certs. But as I keep telling to the team, it's really important to do the deltas. The platform is evolving so rapidly with 2 releases a year. You need to keep up to date with it. So you make sure that you ring fence your time to do further study and then update your certifications so you maintain them, because you don't want to put in all that effort and then find that we're now kind of 2 or 3 releases on and you lose your cert. So you've got to have that continuous learning and continuous improvement embedded in your ways of working, and then you can have a really stellar career in this ecosystem.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. That's brilliant. So, and so like, obviously, I looked at your career and you've obviously worked really hard to get where you are today. And, mental and emotional well-being is so important these days to make sure you are kind of doing the best job that you can. How do you do self-care? Like, how do you look after your mental and emotional well-being so you don't burn out?
Yeah, I think this plays back to what we were talking a little bit about earlier in terms of that resilience and so on. It's been a punishing few years, and that does absolutely take its toll. We get to a point where we can feel like we're running on empty, and not only is that bad for us as an individual, but it's also bad for those around us, because we're not being our best self. And as human beings, I think, particularly as Brits, we struggle sometimes with actually saying, I need a bit of help, or it's seen as failure if we ask for help, or we say we're feeling a bit low, or we're feeling a bit deflated. So I think we've got ourselves again to be maybe a little bit more open about how we're feeling and some of the strains and stresses that we're experiencing. I do think it's really, really important that we recognize that, you know, we're going to have these periods in our lives where we do feel like that, where we do feel that we're, as I said, we're running on empty. And it's perfectly natural and normal to feel like that. So we need to normalize, the stresses and strains that we all feel in our careers. It's important that we're proactive about how we do how we address it. So I think working with your mentor, working with your local HR team, if there are support helplines to talk to people and so on that your firm offers, absolutely do that. I did some Reiki, and so if I'm going to have very kind of stressful, difficult times, I sometimes do a little bit of meditation to try and get myself in the right kind of mindset. I think it's also important to not work too much. You're not going to be a good team member, a good, partner, a good, child, a good parent if you're burning yourself out. So don't work yourself to death because, a dead person's not going to add any value. Okay. There's a lot more you can add by being alive and being here and being around the people that you love, including those that you work with. So making sure you've got the right kind of work-life balance, I think, is critical. But also having some activities and hobbies that you do which are really feeding your soul and challenging you in a different way. So I think taking care of yourself from a diet and exercise perspective, which is a struggle because we all work long hours at times. It's very, very easy to have Uber Eats turn up at your house. And there's not going to be anything that Uber Eats delivered to me at like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night that quite frankly is going to be making me feel great for more than about half an hour. Because once that pizza's gone, it's gone. But it does tend to kind of spend a lot of time around the middle of my body. So I think, we've got to be taking care of ourselves physically from a nutrition and a fitness perspective, because that will help with our resilience. That'll help us bounce back a little bit more. But maybe doing a bit of meditation, doing some hobbies, getting out, even during the day, I think it's really, really important to get out and have a walk. The sun's shining, get out, have a walk for half an hour, clear your head, then go back to your desk at home or your desk in the office, and then continue with the stuff you've got to do. So getting the right balance, I think, is really, really critical, because the challenges we've been experiencing in the last few years are not necessarily going to go away overnight. In fact, they might be increasing. So let's help build our resilience by making sure we've got the right balance. But the number one thing is, if you're feeling under pressure, share it with someone. And if you need help, say you need help, because that will, I can't do anything about somebody in my team who's super stressed out unless it's visible to me. And with the hybrid working, it's not like I can look out from my little glass box office and see somebody suffering and go and do something about it because they're at home. So visibility and talking to those around you is really, really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with that. And it's exactly what you said. It's, it's that British mentality. It's that stiff upper lip, isn't it? You don't want to, you don't want to like let anybody know, it's like, no, I'm fine. I can do this. And, you're like ducks, you're paddling, with your feet going really fast, but you're trying to act calm on top. So, but
exactly.
I think that's amazing advice. And I really love when you talked about meditation and going out and taking a walk, because honestly, when you just, meditation is all about just stopping, and just clearing all the clutter and just having a break, isn't it? It's like trying to empty everything out. And I think it's just amazing, and if you don't meditate, go out, have a walk, go and take the dog for a walk, or just kind of leave everything, because when you come back you're more calm, and then you kind of like you do kind of think clearly as well. So I think it's really good advice there. Definitely.
And I think if you can get a standing desk, if you haven't tried one, try one. I find it a lot better. I stand all day. I find that I'm breathing a lot better, because I think there's a lot to be said about, are we getting enough oxygen into our bodies? I think my posture's better. I think these things we can do physically with our workstation, be that at home or in the office, are things that are also going to add to our well-being as well. So just, it's important that we think about our environment and making sure it's as healthy as possible for us.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. And obviously you've reached such an amazing kind of position where you are, and you're really humble as well. You really come across as, really down to earth. Like, how do you stay so grounded? Like, how are you so approachable? Is there anything that you can share?
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I really do appreciate that. I think I just accepted, quite a long time ago that I don't know everything. I'm still curious. I still want to learn. I work with some incredible people. I think about my role as being a sort of, kind of servant leader. So my role is to help the people in the team that I run to be successful. So if there's some stuff which is getting in the way of them flying, anybody can come and speak to me at any time about anything. And I think for me, that's really, really important, because if they can't do that, then I'm not doing my job properly. And as I said, I trust the people who work for me to do what's right, to have the right kind of levels of client focus, and to be, self-starters and experts in their field. I don't micromanage people. If I've got to micromanage someone, then they're the wrong person. So, so I think it's important that, that people see me for what I say to them in the interview, which is, I want you to be really successful. We're going to give you a load of stuff which we think is important to help support you be successful. But if there's something else that you need, or there's something getting in the way of you being successful, please come and tell me. Let's talk about it, and let's see what we can do to remove those barriers. So I think that for me is my way of trying to be a leader, is seeing how I can create a really great working environment where the super talented DevoTeamers can really shine and just wow our customers every day and be happy in what they're doing. And it's not to say that it's easy, because these things aren't, and things don't always work quite the way that we want them to. But that's what I'm trying to do every day, is to think about how can I create a really good, positive environment where people have got the right tools, they've got the right permission and freedom to really shine and to be successful, because that's ultimately what makes the company successful, is all the people delivering great work to our customers. So I just try to create that environment.
Yeah. And it's a really supportive environment as well that you've created as well. It's really, it's really open dialogue. It's like, well, I'm here to like make sure you succeed, and I think that's great, because people feel empowered as well when you're not, when you don't have a micromanager, so I think that's fantastic. So yeah, no, it's amazing. So it's brilliant. So look, my final question, okay, if you could go back in a time machine and talk to your 21-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
Oh dear God, I mean, it's such a tough one. I think possibly for me, because I've had a bit of a varied career, I've sort of done a lot of, sideways moves, and then, a little bit, here, there, and everywhere. Could I have achieved more if I made myself famous for one thing and kind of gone kind of straight up that sort of thing on that? So I think for me, going back and speaking to my 21-year-old self, I think I would say, carry on as you are. Try lots of different things and challenge yourself, because you'll work out what you're good at. You'll also work out what you might be good at, but actually what you don't want to do. Because I'm always in awe of people who are really driven and really passionate about what it is that they do. It took me a long time to find my stride, I think, in my career. I think maybe I should have challenged myself a little bit more when I was younger, tried a few more things, and learned a bit more about myself. Because there's a time to do it. It's when you're 21, when you've got the energy, you've got the ability to absorb lots of information, challenge yourself, work out what it is you really love. And if you can make a great career out of what you really love, you'll be supremely successful. But you'll also be able to help a lot of other people who share that kind of passion. So I think discover yourself as early as you can, because it will set you up for life.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, look, Richard, I just want to say a huge thank you to you. It's been amazing to have you on. You've been a fantastic guest, and I hope everyone who's listening out there has taken some golden nuggets of advice from you, because it really has been fantastic advice. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And thanks for inviting me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you.
It's great. Thank you.